Well, hello good people. I'm in the workshop again this evening. There's the Ford engine. I have been making parts for it. I'm working on the oil system at the moment, recording bits as I go. We'll have another episode in a month or thereabouts. Of course, last time we saw the Ford engine, we had the miracle of sonic cleaning, when an old Zenith carburetor was turned into this magnificent device. I'll reveal the full story next time. I'm a little disappointed I haven't had any contact with any religious leaders whatsoever, even one of the charlatans, although that doesn't actually narrow the field down very much at all. Amazingly, there have been more miracles too. I'll show you the first one. Look, I tidied up. The lathe has moved back to its old place in the corner. The racking's all moved, lots more shelves. I can even get to the workbench now. The other miracle happened whilst tidying up. I unearthed quite a few useful things as I went through boxes of old stuff that I hadn't really looked at in ages. This is a bit of the Blackburn Tomtit. In fact, it's a bit of the aero engine conversion. So, nice fork end one end with a BSF thread and a ball end the other, which will be useful for advance and retard on the Ford engine or throttle linkage. Of course, that engine was probably, that Blackburn engine, was probably in a DH53, so it might well have been started with a Wallace Startomatic. So that was very pleasing. And then I found some other bits of carburetor linkage. I found one of these ends, but just like the Austrian Corporal, it was missing a ball. And then, ditto if I didn't find another. I think one came off an Austin 10 and the other came off the remains of a Morris 8 that I found in a hedge years ago. I stole a bit of throttle linkage and the radiator tap because they were the only non-ferrous items I could find in the undergrowth. Anyway, I then found in a box of stuff that came from a garage in the west of Cornwall a couple of brand new ball ends with the right diameter for those fittings, which was amazing. I don't think I'd ever looked in that box before, so that's very useful indeed. A couple of weeks ago I spent most of the day cleaning the Aeronca. It was looking rather shabby after a winter in the hangar. You get that nasty sort of black bread mould that tends to settle on everything. Anyway, it had a good scrub and looks 100 times better now. If you're wondering how I start it, I don't bother sucking in. It's just petrol on, mags on, throttle set a little bit, choke out, and then swing it till it fires. That way I can't flood it. Well, hopefully. Last Saturday was one of those days that was near perfect. A mere wisp of high cirrus cloud and a light breeze from the southeast. I headed east from Roke, following the Glyn Valley and the Great Western Railway towards Plymouth. From Moorswater, I followed the long-abandoned route of the Liskeard And Caradon Railway. Closed in 1917, the lower section, through High Wood and up to Tremabe, is not easily distinguished from the air. However, as one approaches Bodmin Moor, all becomes more obvious. Railway Terrace, also known as Darrite, was largely built in the 1840s when the railway was first built to serve the Caradon mines. Railway Terrace can be seen here, the rows of white houses passing under the flying wires of the Aeronca. The railway was never officially permitted to carry passengers, although the company got around this by charging to carry hats and coats and allowing the wearer to travel for free. Thus, photographs of passenger trains on the Liskeard And Caradon Railway were extremely rare. This photograph was taken about 150 years ago and shows a Sunday school party enjoying a ride along the line behind the locomotive Caradon. It's difficult to imagine now that from the 1840s until the 1880s, South Caradon was the world's largest copper mine. When first built, the railway had run north from the Caradon mines, up a rope-worked incline to the village of Minions. But in 1860, the railway company built a loop line round Caradon Hill to serve the mines on the east side, and the incline was closed. Today there's a 1,000-foot radio transmitter on the top of the hill at Caradon. Impressive, but not as impressive as the 2,000-foot deep sump shaft that was dug by hand at South Caradon Mine. Somewhat unusually, but with suitable raw materials in abundance, the rails of the Liskeard And Caradon Railway were spiked down onto granite blocks rather than wooden ties or sleepers. At Minions, the line served several copper mines and the Cheese Ring Quarry on Stows Hill. Cheese Ring Quarry can be seen between the forward flying wires, and the quarry company, having obtained a licence from the Duchy of Cornwall, built at their own expense an extension to the Liskeard And Caradon Railway north up towards Kilmar Tor. The area around Kilmar Tor was, and still is, littered with an abundance of loose granite moorstone. This was much cheaper and quicker to quarry than the solid granite of Stows Hill. In 1884, the railway company started building an extension to Trewint and possibly eventually on to Launceston, but the following year the South Caradon mines closed. Miscellaneous freight, quarried stone and inbound coal trains didn't provide enough income for the railway. In 1909 it was sold to the Great Western Railway and closed in 1917. Wobble vision doesn't do justice to quite how magnificent this area is. So much for wallowing in misty-eyed Victorian nostalgia. It was time to turn round and head to Bodmin. I had two reasons to go to Bodmin. Firstly, there was a fly-in on, and I thought I'd better show my face. And secondly, I'd left my scarf in the hangar early that morning when I'd gone to move the flying flea. I didn't want to leave it there too long in case some rascal half-inched it. Colliford Lake was looking very full as I flew over. No surprise with all the rain we've had this spring. However, no doubt those scoundrels at South West Water will impose a hosepipe ban later this year. Too busy paying shareholders, not enough time spent fixing leaks. I retrieved my scarf and most delightfully met a couple of subscribers to this channel. They'd flown down to Bodmin from Goodwood in a Cat 10, a proper aeroplane if ever there was. I was back at Roach by lunchtime. I would like to have stayed out all day, but you know what it's like. There's always things to be done.